Hey everyone, it's Kaycienikole, and today we're going to go through a full stretching sequence. It's going to target all into the hips, the hamstrings, all the different movements, so our hips will be feeling nice and open and prepared for whatever comes next. We're going to keep the practice nice and short, and mostly everything's going to be done from either tabletop or a low lunge position. So if you need extra cushion underneath the knees, you can do that. I would suggest having 2 blocks available as well. So we're going to start off just a comfortable seated position. We're going to establish 2 to 3 really deep breaths, and then we'll start to move through the sequence together. Close your eyes, find your seat, and feel your spine lift up nice and tall. Shoulders relax away from the ears. And from whatever comfortable seat that you are in, relax your breath all the way out. Take a slow breath through the nose, holding at the top of the breath, and then open up the mouth and let it go. Even slower. Through the nose, take a breath in, fill up into your belly. Let it rise up into your ribs and chest. Holding it. And then open up the mouth and release. Now take one more on your own, but make sure you're breathing not only in through the nose, but we're going to keep the breath through the nose on the exhale as well. And then try to relax your breath and allow your breath to just move in and out of your nose at a nice natural pace. And then gently blink open through your eyes. Try to stay as steady in the breath as possible as we move through the sequence to open up through the hips. Let's make our way into a tabletop position, hands and knees. I'm going to start with the left side, just so you have a better visual for this first sequence. Let's extend the left leg out to the left, directly out to the side of the hip. And then from here, you can begin to sink back towards your back heel and then rock forward. And I want you to just play within the range of motion in your hip. If this is your first movement of the day, notice where it feels sticky. If it's later on in your day, maybe you feel a little more open, or maybe you feel the tension from the activities that you did throughout the day or lack of. Now let's bring the hips back to that neutral point, and you're going to walk the hands in until we can come all the way up into this gate position. Now from here, we're going to walk the foot in until we can bend the knee and try to stack the ankle directly underneath the knee. The leg is still directly out to the side, toes pointing out to the side. And I want you to emphasize a slight tuck of your tail. And so your tail is reaching down towards the ground, maybe even just slightly under. And by the tail scooping down, we're lifting through the front hip points, which is going to increase more opening into the front of that right hip. So we're going to add on to it. Keep your pelvis slightly tucked, and then just give a little bend into the left knee. You can either hold still, if it feels good to just sit in this sensation. Otherwise, maybe you come back up and sink back in, not losing the integrity of the hips or pelvis. Another breath or so here. Next time your hips come back up, we're going to take the foot and we're going to walk it around to kind of a diagonal. So it's not pointing forward, it's not pointing to the side, it's that nice in between. Toes pointing in the same direction that your knee is pointing. Now from here, same thing. Give that nice tuck of the tail, that scooping under, and then start to sink into your left knee. We're just playing with the angles a little bit here. And same options. If you want to settle into it nice and still, you can. If you prefer to add a little bit of dynamic movement to ease in and out of the sensation, stay in your breath and choose what feels best for you. Now, next time your hips come up, let's take our hands down to blocks. Now, the blocks are optional. If you have pretty open hamstrings, you can do this without the blocks, but blocks can be nice just to create extra space. So with your leg pointing at this diagonal, walk it out until you can straighten it and roll up onto the heel. Now from here, we're going to walk the hands forward just a little bit to lengthen out through the spine. You might stay right here and just work on lifting the chest away from the hip line. Otherwise, if you want to go deeper, you can hinge at your hips. Notice as I hinge, I'm not just rolling my back and shoulders. I'm keeping my spine long, my chest extended away from the hip line as I fold. Whatever variation you're in, give yourself a couple more breaths. And then come back up onto the hands. If you've lowered down, we're going to bend the knee, bring the foot in, and then we're going to walk around towards the front. Take your hands to either side. I'm going to set the blocks out of the way for now. Now, as your hands frame the front foot, let's walk the hands up onto that front leg. And then pull the hips back so that your hips stack above your back knee. You can always adjust your front foot if needed, but now your front toes are pointed forward. Once again, let's give that strong emphasis of the tail reaching down or slightly scooping under. And this might be enough already. If you want a little bit more, we're just going to sink a little bit into the hips, melting into that front knee, but keep the tail reaching down or slightly scooping under. And we're going to hold here nice and still. Just a couple more breaths. Hips pull back. Drop your hands down to your blocks again, to either side of your foot. We're going to take the foot, we're going to start to walk it forward a little bit until we can roll up on the heel and the toes pull back. The leg is directly in front of you, and the blocks help to create more space. So lengthen the chest away from the hips. And once again, this might be enough already. Otherwise, keeping the back nice and long, maybe hinge at your hips to go deeper. You can always lower your hands to the floor or lower your forearms down to blocks or to the ground. Couple more breaths. And then as you hold this position, wherever you are, we're just going to feel a slight difference in sensation as we point the toes towards the ground. Now we're getting that stretch through the top of the foot, the ankle, and into the shin. Okay. Reflex the ankle and then bend into your front knee until we can plant the foot again. Now we're going to take the hands to the inside of the foot and just walk the foot out just a little bit. Let the toes turn out. And then your hands are going to walk a little to the right side. You can even walk off your mat slightly. A block can be nice for more space. I'm going to plant my right hand down to a block or to the ground and then open up the ribs and chest. Left hand high. Stay here, or if it feels good, you can bend the back knee and catch the foot. If you have the foot, work on pulling it towards the glute and then hold it there as the hips sink in. One more breath. Release the foot gently with control. Hands walk around to center. Stay on your hands, maybe walk them forward, maybe lower onto your blocks or forearms down to the ground one at a time. We're going to hold here for a few breaths. You can stay, you can sway a little side to side. You can even tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and find some movement here as well. Listen to your body. Stay connected to your breath in and out of your nose. Now, if the back knee is up, go ahead and bring it back down and release the toes. Let's come back up onto the hands. Now, this time, as you walk the foot back into center, you're going to keep walking the foot to the right side. until you can pull the foot in a little bit and drop the knee directly behind your left wrist. Knee points to the left wrist. Now, the foot can be in front of the hips as far forward as you like. Maybe the foot comes right behind your right wrist. Maybe it's a little closer to your hips. Either way is just fine. Try to sink your hips back and down as much as you can. Right leg directly behind your right hip with the toenails facing down. If you need to, you can take a block or a blanket underneath your left hip. Otherwise, long spine, maybe come up onto the fingers a little bit, lifting the chest. And then exhale, slowly release yourself forward and down, either using blocks, forearms to the floor, or releasing chest all the way down. Try to support your head either with your hands, a block, something, so that you can relax your neck. And give yourself about 3 or 4 slow breaths from this position. And then slowly come back up onto your hands. From here, we're going to tuck the back toes. And then you're going to inch your back knee forward just a little bit until you can swivel your left foot back and bring yourself back into that tabletop position. And just spend a few breaths moving however you'd like to move, or resting into any position that helps you to bring your body back into a more neutral space. Okay. Coming back up into a tabletop position, we're going to do the same thing, but on the other side. And in fact, I'm going to reposition myself so you can see the right side the whole time, but you can stay as you are. Now let's take the right leg, kick it out to the right, foot is planted, and then just begin to sink back and forward, linking up with your breath, moving nice and slow, and just feeling into your hips. Notice how they feel without judging, but just paying attention. Slow your breath count down. And then once the hips stack over that back knee, walk the hands in and lift all the way up into your gate pose. Then we're going to walk the foot in a little closer until we can bend the knee, toes point to the side, and the knee stacks right over the ankle. Feel your tail reach down or scoop slightly under, and then keep that as you start to bend a little into your right knee. You can either stay still here, or you can come out and ease back in a few times to feel a little bit more of that dynamic stretching, or staying still, which is going to embrace more of that static stretching. Now, as the hips come back up, walk your foot around until it's at that diagonal. Toes point in the same direction as your knee. Keep the tail tucked under, and then bend into the knee. Same thing. Either stay nice and still, holding here and breathing, or continue to ease in and out. And just move at your own pace, or hold and just breathe. Now, as the hips come back up, let's take the hands down to blocks if you know you want to use them. The higher they are, the more lift you get away from the ground, the more space. Now you're going to follow the direction of your toes as you walk your foot forward, and then roll up onto the heel. Leg is nice and straight, toes pulling back. Hands walk forward a little bit with the blocks if you have them. Long spine. Extend your chest away from the hip line, and keep that extension in the spine. Stay here, or hinge with the flat back to go deeper. You can always lower your forearms closer to the ground if that feels appropriate. One more breath. If you're folded, come back up, long spine, and then we're going to bend the knee and walk the foot all the way around to the front, hands to either side. You can set the blocks off to the side if you want to. We're going to walk the hands up onto that front leg and then pull your hips back until they stack above the back knee. You can adjust the front foot if needed, but toes stay pointing forward. Now, tail reaches down or slightly scoops under. This one's pretty intense. Stay here, maybe give a little micro bend into that front knee, and then we're going to hold nice and still for a few breaths. One more here. Now slowly release your hands down to either side of the foot. Maybe grab your blocks and then walk the foot forward until you can straighten out the leg. Toes pull back. Extend the chest away from the hips. Create that length into the spine. Take a deep breath in and stay here. Maybe exhale and hinge to go deeper, but keep the spine long and keep the legs straight and engaged. You don't usually have to move very much. One more deep breath here. And then as you stay in this position, just start to point the toes towards the ground. And then rebend into the ankle, rebend into the knee, bring the foot in just slightly. And then take your hands to the inside of the foot. You can set the blocks if you'd like. I will give option to use them. So with hands to the inside, walk the foot out slightly to the right and let the toes turn out. I'm going to walk my hands over to the left, planting my left hand to the ground or to a block. If you need to slide your back knee back a little bit, you can. And then as you press down into your left hand, open up your ribs and chest. Right arm reaches up. Option to stay here or bend the back knee and catch the foot, draw it towards the glute. And as you keep it there, let the hips continue to sink forward and down. One more deep breath here. And then slowly, with control, release the foot back down to the ground. Take your hands, bring them all the way back around to the center of the mat. And then from here, you can stay on your hands. You can walk them forward. You can lower forearms down to a block, down to the floor. Maybe find a little bit of movement. Or same option as last time. If you want to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, you can always take that variation as well. Anything that feels good. Couple more deep breaths. If the back knee is up, let's go ahead and place it back down, release the toes, come back up onto the hands. Now we're going to walk the foot to the left. And as you walk it to the left, then you're going to start to pull it back until you can drop your knee directly behind your right wrist. The foot can be as far forward away from the hips as it feels good while still keeping your hips nice and level, not sinking to one side. And then let your hips sink back and down as much as you're able. If you want to prop underneath the right hip with a blanket or a block, now's the time. Come up onto the hands, lift the spine, feel your weight over the legs so you're getting that front hip and the back hip opening. And then slowly begin to walk yourself forward and down. Feel free to use blocks or any props that help to bring in a little bit more comfort and support. And let yourself ease in. We're going to be here about 5 slow breaths. One more deep breath here. Start to come back up onto the hands. Take your back toes, tuck them under, and walk the back knee up a little bit until you can swivel your right foot out, and then step out of the position and move your body in any way that you'd like for a couple more breaths. When you're ready, find your way back into a nice comfortable seat of your choosing, spine up nice and tall, close the eyes, join the hands together at heart center. Take a deep breath in. Open up your mouth and just release it out. Let your breath return in and out of the nose, nice and softened. Feel down into your hips, feel that space that you've created, and thank yourself for taking the time to be here in your practice. Thank you for allowing me to be your guide. Much gratitude from me to you. Open up your eyes whenever you are ready. So this is one of my favorite sequences to go through to target all the different areas and angles of the hips. Feels so good. I would love your feedback in the comments. And as always, I'm looking forward to practicing with y'all again soon. Thanks so much.